Hey geeks, Mod Tim here, coming at you live for Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, the final movie with the original cast. I can't really say the original crew because Sulu's not a part of this crew. But this is it. This is the last movie with Kirk and the gang, if you will. Which, it's kind of interesting, I'm just going to jump ahead, that if you look at the original cast, we do see all of them again, with the exception of Uhura. I mean, Kirk and Chekhov are kind of like semantics because they're in the next movie for Generations, but Scotty is in the Next Generation, Spock is in the Next Generation, McCoy's in the Next Generation, Sulu and Rand are both in Voyager. And then, again, kind of semantics, but Majel Barrett, I just love her name, who plays Nurse Chapel, goes on to play Luoxana Troy. And so we see that actress again. And, of course, she's the voice of the Enterprise computer. So besides Nichelle Nichols, which I don't know if they just couldn't come up with a good plot for her or if she was just like, whatever. But we see everybody again. So this isn't quite the end, but it's the end of them seeing them together. Are you doing the whole franchise? I've been force-feeding my boyfriend Trek for a while. So I wasn't going to do I guess I didn't really have a plan. I just kind of started this blindly, like, I want to watch the entire series. And I might do some video diaries. And then I kind of got some good responses, so I just kept doing it. And I mean, to be honest, this was kind of a New Year's resolution for me as a mod and you guys to be like 60,000 people. I was like, how can I interact with them? And this was the best idea I could come up with. And I have a lot of trouble with public speaking. And in my current job, I just got promoted where I have to do a lot of speaking with employees and stuff. And so this was also kind of an experiment for me to kind of get over that fear. But it's been great. Like, here we are, into March already, and we're done with the original series. So, I mean, Aiden, you ruined everything, Aiden. Yes, I am going to continue on to the Next Generation. If I continue past that to Deep Space Nine, I don't know. I looked up the episode, like, mathematically, and if I do 2 episodes a day for the entire year, I could go all the way up to Discovery. So take that for what you will. Will I continue? It actually depends on you guys. If you guys keep commenting, if you guys keep liking, if you guys keep interacting with me, then I'll keep doing it. If you guys are like, wow, he is super annoying and I want this to stop, then I'll stop. So it's kind of up to you guys. Ugh, that's awful. So for the movie, The Undiscovered Country, so this movie came out in 1991. So at this point, Star Trek The Next Generation was already into like season 5. So Star Trek The Next Generation was more over than it had left. It was more than the halfway point. So it's kind of interesting to me because, like, I have no memory of this movie coming out. I was alive, like, I was already a little kid and everything. And I remember watching it as a little kid, but I don't remember any production. Like, I don't remember seeing trailers or anything like that. But to think that this movie came out in 1991 is kind of interesting to me. Because at this point, like I said, The Next Generation was already in season 5, so McCoy had already done his part. I didn't look up Scotty's. And Spock, his episodes of The Next Generation were also in 1991, so he was kind of filming it all at once. So it's just kind of interesting for the timeline. So for this movie, Nicholas Meyer has returned to the franchise. If you watched the movie I did for Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which Nicholas Meyer directed, I thought he was the greatest addition that Star Trek could have ever done. Like, he's the guy who made it more of a military, he's the guy who gave them uniforms, he's the guy who gave them rules. Like, I think of him as the hero of Star Trek. Like, Gene Roddenberry had a great idea, but Nicholas Meyer was like, how can we take this further? And I really liked him. And so I was really happy to see him come back to the franchise, especially after Leonard Nimoy did his movies and William Shatner did his movie. And then now we have Nicholas Meyer returning, which is kind of interesting. He's the only guy that does 2 movies that are not back-to-back. Leonard Nimoy did 3 and 4. Jonathan Frakes directed 2 Next Generation movies back-to-back, and even JJ did his movies back-to-back. Nicholas Meyer's the only guy who took a break for a while. So there's kind of a really sad story that I was debating on sharing or not, but screw it. This is what this video is for. It's random trivia. So Gene Roddenberry was still alive when this movie came out, or when this movie was being made. And there's an infamous story that's really sad where Nicholas Meyer, like I said, he changed Gene Roddenberry's ideas. He wanted to make it more of a military. And there's an infamous story where Nicholas Meyer had finished the movie, and he showed Gene Roddenberry, who at this point was like on an oxygen tank and in a wheelchair, a rough cut for this movie. And Gene Roddenberry fucking hated it. He was like, nope, this is not my Trek. This is not what I wanted. Like, no, this is bad. And Nicholas Meyer was basically like, well, fuck you. This is my friend. This is my movie. And Gene Roddenberry died like within 48 hours of watching the rough cut of the movie. And Nicholas Meyer has like gone on to say that he doesn't think he killed Gene Roddenberry, but he felt like super guilty about it. But I do think it's interesting that Gene Roddenberry was at least present for the final voyage of the original cast. Because no one knows. Yeah, Dave. Honestly, like, I'm just gonna kind of go. My phone likes to cut out after about 15 minutes. So if it does, I'm just gonna stop this and then just start a second stream. But we'll see how it goes. I think it's interesting that Gene Roddenberry was at least part of this movie, and it's unfortunate that he passed away without enjoying it, I guess I would say. So like my other videos, I'm just going to kind of segue into the cast. So the cast for this movie is like amazing. As with all the movies, I don't know what it is about Trek movies, but the movies are always great. So like I said, this movie came out in 1991. The Next Generation was into season 5, which as a kid I couldn't process. But Michael Dorn is in this movie as Colonel Worf. He's Kirk and Bones' lawyer, if you will. And he's supposed to be Worf's like grandfather, or at least kind of ancestor, if you will. Which I always thought that was kind of interesting. Like as a kid, I was like, whoa, Worf was like in this before the Next Generation. And as a little kid, I couldn't really like process that this came out after the Next Generation. I don't know. I'm not that smart. Whatever. I really liked Christian Slater's cameo, which I guess his mom was like the casting director, and she was like, hey, I have an idea for you. Which it was kind of a funny little cameo where he just like wakes up Sulu. Probably the most notable, I guess, guest star for the movie would be Kim Cattrall. This movie came out 6 years before Sex and the City, where she played Samantha. Which I guess Kim Cattrall was originally in the running for Saavik back in The Wrath of Khan. Looking at her in this, I'm like, holy fuck, she's like 12 years old. So I can't even imagine. Like, The Wrath of Khan was 10 years roughly prior to this. I can't imagine her as Saavik. And this character was basically supposed to be Lieutenant Saavik, which I'm glad they changed it because like it wouldn't have fit with the way we perceive that character. And Kim Cattrall said, like, no, like, Kirstie Alley did it, Robin Curtis did it, I don't want to be the third Saavik. And so they completely changed it, so now she's Valeris. There is a book that confirms Colonel Worf is Worf's grandfather before that. Okay, no, thank you, Andrew. But I thought Kim Cattrall was great. Like, she portrayed the character really well. I love all of the interactions between her and Spock. Personally, Spock steals this entire movie. Kind of like Scotty stole all of the fourth movie, The Voyage Home. Spock is like all about this movie, which I'll get to later. But yeah, Kim Cattrall did great. I really enjoyed all of her like little interactions, and to like watch Sex and the City, like that series, and then watch this, it's just like, oh, it's kind of weird to see like her in that role. Which my husband, who is not a Star Trek fan at all, but he loves Sex and the City, like he watched this and he's like, that's fucking weird. But it is what it is. And another interesting one. So you guys, if you've seen my previous videos, you know that I am terrible with names, so I am going to butcher this. Renee Auberjonois. I'm sorry. The guy, the geeks all know him as Odo from Deep Space Nine. For the Disney fans, he was the chef in The Little Mermaid. Is Colonel West in this movie. So this movie came out in 1991. Deep Space Nine came out in 1993. So I'm pretty sure they had already, like, knew what they were doing, or at least in, like, some sort of production to get ready for it. But it's kind of interesting to watch this and say, oh, hey, like, we're going to fit you in right here for just, like, a test. So that was kind of cool. Mark Leonard has returned as Sarek, which, fuck. So the original series, the animated series, The Wrath of Khan, The Voyage Home, and this. So I think it's his 5th time, which again, he was in The Next Generation. I think he was actually in The Next Generation before he was in this movie. So I really like that Mark Leonard kept coming back. And personally, I really liked him as Sarek. I think it's an interesting role. When I think of like a pure Vulcan, Sarek is who comes to mind. And then finally, I don't think they actually say her name, but Grace Whitney comes back as Rand. So she was in like the first 10 episodes or so of the first season as Yeoman Rand, and then we saw her as Transporter Chief Rand, where Kirk actually says her name. She has a very, very short cameo in, I think it was the 3rd movie, where the Enterprise is coming in kind of messed up, and she just shakes her head in disappointment. And now she's in this movie as the communications officer for the Excelsior, for Sulu. But again, I don't think they say, Dave, I'll get there, you wait. But I don't think they actually say her name as Rand. I think you just kind of see her, and you're like, I know who that is. Which is also interesting because after this, a couple years after this, for the 30th year anniversary, there were 2 shows on the air at that time. It was Deep Space Nine, which for the 30th anniversary did Trials and Tribulations, and then Voyager, which did Flashback, where Tuvok does like a mind meld, and he goes back, and he was part of the crew for the Excelsior. And those scenes take place during this movie, and so like George Takei is played by Sulu, or he plays Sulu in that episode, and then Grace Whitney plays Rand in that episode as well. So it's kind of interesting that she does come back, which I'm super happy that she comes back. And then Tim Russ, who plays Tuvok, directs a movie called Of Gods and Men. It's a fan fiction movie. Like, the production's not that great because it's a fan fiction movie, but the plot's pretty interesting. And she's in that too. So I'm really glad, because she left Star Trek in such a bad note. And rightly so. So I was glad that she made amends, and she ended up coming back to the franchise. But it was kind of interesting to see Communications Officer Rand and Captain Sulu, which at this point, it's interesting to see where they were kind of running out of ideas. Like, Chekhov's a commander, Spock's a captain, Sulu's a captain. And we see that again in The Next Generation. By the time we get to season 7 of The Next Generation, the whole fucking cast is commanders. Like, it's Captain Picard, and everybody else is a commander. Like, fucking Wesley's pretty much a commander at that point. So it's interesting to see the cast start promoting up. And there are a lot of other actors that I didn't actually write down. Like Dave pointed out, David Warner plays a Klingon, which he played a human in the last movie, and then he plays a Klingon this movie. Like I said in my review for the 5th movie, I love how Michael Cera played a Klingon, and David Warner plays a Klingon, and they both go on to play Mr. Freeze and Ra's al Ghul in Batman the Animated Series, respectively. So it's kind of an interesting little thing. I don't know what my dog's doing. Little Bear, what are you doing? Also, Mark That's Max von Sydow plays a Klingon, which he's a great actor as well. There are 3 scenes that I love in this movie. So there's, like I said, this movie has a lot of really, really good cast members in it, so I really, really liked it. For random trivia fact, so William Shatner, or no, I'm sorry, I'm dying. Gene Roddenberry did not accept the animated series as canon, which I did 4 videos for the animated series if you guys have seen them or not. Whereas Paramount, the company that owns Star Trek, does view them as canon, and the writers view them as canon. And a lot of the animated series introduced a lot of things that we see later on. Like the animated series had the holodeck, which we then see in the Next Generation. The animated series first introduced Tiberius into the series. Like, we had seen James T. Kirk, but then there's one episode of the animated series where I swear to God, like, William Shatner says it like 8 times, where he's like, this is James Tiberius Kirk. This is James Tiberius Kirk. And that's the first time we actually hear his middle name. As far as live action goes, this is the first instance where they say it live action. So that's kind of interesting. I like that. It's kind of a stupid joke, but like I said, so Spock steals this whole movie. Spock's little quote about, like, one of my ancestors said, if you eliminate whatever's impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, has to be the answer, which is Sherlock, which is a Sherlock quote. That made me laugh. Even as a little kid, I got that. Like, it's a Sherlock quote. And I don't know, take this for what you will. My favorite part the most interesting scene for me in this movie is Spock's anger. Because we've seen Spock have emotion, and I think this all the credit for this scene goes to Leonard Nimoy. Hey, Ronnie. All the credit for this scene goes to Leonard Nimoy, where you see Valeris go in intending to kill somebody, and then Spock turns on the light. And I don't know if it's like me channeling the fear of my father or my grandfather, or if it's just how amazing Leonard Nimoy is as an actor, but it scares the shit out of me every time I watch it, where he's like, shoot. If you're logical, shoot. And he just fucking slaps the gun out of her hand. Like, he's pissed. And it's such a credit to how good of an actor he is, and how amazing that scene is. Because that scene is intense, where she says, well, I don't want to. And he, like I said, he just fucking slaps the gun because he is so disappointed in her. As, not a human, as an entity. That she betrayed the Vulcan pride. But it's a credit to Leonard Nimoy, and I miss him as an actor. But that's probably one of my favorite scenes, and then to go from there, where it's the first time he mind melds with her to get the information, and it's uncomfortable. Like, I hate to say it, but it's a borderline rape moment where he is just digging in her brain. And again, like, I kind of made my husband watch this movie with me, and it's the first time we've ever seen a forced mind meld. Because we've seen mind melds a lot, and especially in season 3. Like, I swear to God, Spock is mind melding with anything that, like, exists. But it's the first time we've actually seen a Vulcan force a mind meld. And not only does he mind meld, but he, like, double fists it, and he's, like, digging in her brain, and she's crying. It's a very intense moment. Like, that scene, like, it really gets to me. Yeah, I don't know. It's deep. It's intense, like I said. But this whole movie is really interesting and really intense, because the whole movie's basically like an allegory for racism. And like, the original series had a lot of episodes to kind of deal with racism. Like the famous Kirk and Uhura kiss, and then the aliens that are black on one side and white on the other side, and vice versa. Like, the Star Trek series alone is very, very allegorical and metaphorical for racism. But this movie this is the first time we've taken it to a well-known species, whereas it's the Klingons, and they talk about like, oh, they smell and they all look the same, and even Chekhov says the "Guess who's coming to dinner," which is a reference to that movie, which evidently Uhura refused to say because that was just crossing the line for her into the allegorical racism, because I mean they flat out say the exact words. But yeah, this movie's very, very upfront, in your face, about being the racism, which I give the movie kudos for. I think it was a great choice. That's what made the original series great, and the Next Generation. Like, I love Deep Space Nine, I love Voyager for like all of the sci-fi storylines. The original series and the Next Generation, what they did best was having those real life problems up front in people's face. Like, this is a problem right now and we need to fix it. And a lot of those issues we're still dealing with today, unfortunately. So I love that this movie did that. It's right up there, and it's so, like, it's subtle enough that people who have those feelings might not even realize it, and they're watching it and they're like, well, fuck Kirk, he's a jerk for not liking Klingons just because they're Klingons. And then hopefully they can realize, like, that they have that mentality and people can change. I didn't mean to get like super preachy on that soapbox, I'm sorry, but this movie does that, and it's a really great step forward. I think that's all of the trivia I have. As for the movie itself, somebody already said, oh yeah, like Brian said, like, just, did you see the way they ate? Like, everybody, like, okay, anyway, somebody said it earlier, I think it was Dave, there's an old rumor slash joke that the even movies are awful and the even numbered movies are good. People generally say that 2, 4, 6 are the great movies. Somebody said in one of my other posts, I apologize, I don't remember who, that 6, The Undiscovered Country, is their favorite movie. And it is. It's a very good movie. Personally, I really kind of, Max von Sydow steals the scenes for this movie with all of his quotes of Shakespeare and stuff. But it's great. He's so over the top that he's actually a really, really well done character. And it's a good movie. Like I said, if no other reason, Nicholas Meyer returning kind of brought that new perspective as a like experienced director that Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner, although they're pretty good, they're not experienced directors. But yeah, overall, this movie's really good. For me, the prison scene is actually the slowest scene. Like, I like because the prison scene is where it goes from being serious to, oh, this is just a joke. Like, where he kicks the guy in the knees and she's like, that's not his knees. I was like, oh, I get it, but that's dumb. Oh, yeah, I'm glad you enjoy it, Tal. Or Tal, I don't know, sorry. But, so, like, this movie, like I said, like, it's super, super heavy, but then when they go to prison, that's when it's light and jokey, and it's like, I didn't dig that. Dave asks, what odd movie did you love? It depends. Are we talking about the original series, or are we talking about in general? Because after this, the next actual movie is Generations, which as a kid was actually my favorite movie. Probably almost until I was an adult, I loved Generations. Everything about it. Actually, it might still be my favorite. So yeah, that's to answer your... as far as the original series, 1, 3, and 5? Probably 5. What does God need with Starship? So... if we're talking about all the movies, Generations. If we're talking about just the original movies, just number 5. And evidently Jordan's watching it. My husband just started watching. Why are you watching? You're supposed to be at work right now. I can see you. Oh my god, Generations is my least favorite. Okay, Dave, you and I will have to talk about that later, because Generations is my favorite. But overall, yeah, so number 6, Undiscovered Country. Gotta stay focused. I like it. It's a good movie. So to kind of end on that note, we're done. We're done with Kirk. We're done with the crew. We're done with everything from the original series, and we're looking towards the future. So this is going to be kind of a dual video, a little segue, looking back to where we came from. I just hit my cat in the face. To looking to where we're going. I'm curious what you guys want. Yeah, on a break. That's nice. So I'm curious what you guys think about the original series, going from the original, The Cage, all the way through the first 3 seasons, the animated series, through 6 movies now. I want to have a... Funny that Shannon wants so much for... I want you guys to kind of talk. Like, I want this. I want to see your comments. I want to interact with them. And then a little bit, because I don't want to get too spoilery and I don't want to get ahead of myself, into the next generation. I'm just going to kind of go down. So, Dave, funny that Shatner, well, I've drank too much. Shatner wanted so much more for Kirk. Yes and no. I kind of agree with that because it's infamous at this point that Shatner started writing Trek books. Like, let's be honest, he was ghostwriting. He was like, he hired somebody and he's like, hey, bring me back to life. He wrote his own little series where the Romulans and the Borg revived Kirk. And then in 2009... when Abrams started doing his movies, he was all pissed off that Leonard Nimoy came back, but they didn't bring him back to life. Like, Shatner needs to get the fuck over it. Like, I'm sorry. Kirk's dead. He's gone. It's over. Like, and it was such a good death scene, to me, at least, that don't bring him back. It's fine. But I respect the fact that Shatner liked the role so much that he wanted to hold on to it. So it's kind of a... You really care for a flood of opinions? Talk about... So, because Shatner loved the role so much, Brian, the last scene and the autographs at the end made me cry the first time. Dude, I've seen this movie a lot. When I watched it yesterday, my husband was watching it. He's texting right now. When they started doing it, like, I was getting a little misty because it's so good. Because it's clearly like them, like, signing off, like... I love you as a fan. Peace. You're on to the next generation. You see what I did that? I love you too, Jordan. But it was great. Like the autographs at the end. Let me see. Can I click that? You really care for a flood of opinions? Talk about Flame War Invite. Maybe a gay audience is cooler. Dave, I'm sorry. I don't know what Flame War Invite means. But overall, like... The series was good. It was a great series. It was a series that brought a lot of people more aware of their surroundings, if you will. This predates the Star Wars. The original Cage was filmed, a year after Doctor Who. But the only good thing about Star Trek V was that it was so bad they had to make 6. You know what? Brian, I said that, I think it was the last review or maybe my video for 4. I love how every other movie, like, they made one and they were so happy. They're like, oh, this is great. And then they got bad reviews and they're like, well, we're done. We're never getting another one. But they managed to get a second one. And they're like, this is great. Let's do 3 right away. And then 3 was bad. And they're like, well, we just ruined the franchise again. And William Shatner said after 5, he was like, well, I single-handedly killed the franchise. But they managed to get this one and go out on a high note. Dave, if you haven't seen 6 in years, I would really recommend it. Kind of my goal for doing these videos is to inspire others to kind of watch them with me. Because it's always more fun to have other people watching. But yeah, some of the shows are good. But overall, like... The series is great. It's a lot of fun. To stop there, like I said, so most of these crew members, other than Uhura, we will see again into the next generation. So I've actually already started watching that and getting the videos ready. Because other than the movie, I wanted to do the movies live because there's so much to dig into. Whereas the series, I can kind of just pre-record and then post it. That being said, so a lot of you have asked me about my previous videos and asked me about, one person specifically asked about subscribing, and I was like, dude, this is Facebook. There's no subscribing. You look up my last name, and all the videos will pop up. And I've had a lot of other people who outside of the group have asked me about them, and so I have decided to start a YouTube channel. And starting tomorrow, where I will be posting, starting with the Next Generation Encounters at Farpoint, I will be posting these videos. I've already uploaded, actually, all of these videos. So 84, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 94 videos previous up to YouTube, and then all of my future videos will be uploaded here in the Gay Geeks group and into my YouTube channel as well. So for anybody that wants to subscribe or wants to go back and watch them, but doesn't know like what to look for, or doesn't just want to go through the hassle of digging, they're there. They're in numerical order, starting from Season 1, Episode 0, The Cage, up to this, eventually, this video. Will be there in order, and you can watch them. So if you guys want to subscribe or like or comment, I haven't quite figured out how YouTube works yet, they'll be there for you guys. As soon as I'm done with this video, which will probably be fairly quick, I will post the link to that page. I don't know. I don't even know what the channel, I guess, that YouTube channel. So if you guys want to interact there, by all means, go for it. I want to say a special thank you to everybody who has watched these videos, who has commented on these videos, who's liked them. It means a lot to me. Like I said, kind of said at the beginning, this kind of started out more as an experiment for me to reach out to you guys, to interact, because as a mod, I can tell you it's difficult sometimes. Whereas, because I know a lot of the mods will like kind of post and stuff, but I wanted to kind of do something different. I want to do my own Star Trek thing. And I was doing and I like Star Trek, and I was doing the math, and I was like, I could do this for a year. Like every now and then somebody will comment. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to respond to that because that's a trap. And like I said, I have kind of a fear of public speaking, which that's why I've been drinking quite a bit. This is kind of meant more for me, but to include you guys. Hi Hawkins, hi Alice, hi Joseph, hi Nana. But I'm glad you guys have talked. I'm glad you guys have interacted. I'm glad you guys have reached out. I've probably gotten like fucking 100 friend requests from you guys, which I'm super sketchy about. I don't like to include, like, I've always, in the 10 years I've had Facebook, had less than 50 friends, and now I'm like blowing up. So I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. So if you guys do send me a friend request, please send me a message. Just be like, hey, I saw your video. I really enjoyed it. I have similar interests. And I'd like to talk. I had one guy send me a message saying, you know what, I actually really don't like Star Trek, but you seem like an interesting person. And now we're communicating, we're talking. So if you guys send me a message, you're much more likely to get added. Just saying, just for me personally. But to be honest, that's it. That's all I got. I could go into Encounters at Farpoint because I have watched it, but I feel like that would just be too much for one night. So I'll probably stop here. If you guys have any questions, comments, go ahead and post them. Like I said, I really enjoy having these little interactions. Yeah, otherwise, I think I'm done. Any last minute comments? Nope. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. Tomorrow I will be posting, I might do Encounters at Farpoint live, just because it is the first episode and it is so dense, I guess. It is a beautiful disaster, I guess you could say. But yeah, so tomorrow, Encounters at Farpoint. Otherwise, Kirk and the crew, this is it. This is the final voyage. Thank you guys for watching, what did I say, 94 episodes, 3 seasons. 22 episodes, but I condensed the animated series into 4, and then 6 movies for the animated, or for the live action movies. So what is that? 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. So, or 80, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90. 90. Almost 90 videos in. So 90 fucking videos. Can you believe we've done 90 videos? I don't know if any of you have watched every single video. I seriously doubt it. I haven't even watched 90 videos. But for those that have, thank you so much. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your messages. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the subscribes, if there are any future ones. I really appreciate it. I will still be up for a while, so for those that have just now seen this, if you want to go ahead and comment, I'll still be up. Thank you guys. Good night. Live long and prosper.